Imagine being sent on an advanced marketing campaign for like a massive global movement, but your boss tells you to bring zero money, walk barefoot, and actively ignore literally everyone you pass on the street. Welcome to the deep dive.
It is definitely not your standard business strategy, that's for sure.
Right, not at all. Today, we are uncovering the really shocking, basically rule-breaking strategies hidden in Luke chapter 10. But before we jump into this total demolition of ancient norms, I really want to offer a warm welcome and a blessing to you, the listener. May God bless your day today, and may you find true peace and clarity for the entire week ahead.
Yeah, that's just the perfect mindset to have as we jump into this text because, well, what we were looking at today requires a lot of clarity. We are, using the Holman and AA study Bibles to peel back the layers of Luke 10. And it really is just a complete demolition job of our modern assumptions.
Yeah, and that is exactly the goal for this deep dive. We're looking at these ancient stories, stories you have probably heard a dozen times if you grew up around them, and stripping away that cozy Sunday school familiarity to see the intense, cultural reversals happening underneath.
Oh, absolutely. The familiarity is almost the problem.
Exactly. We are talking about a 2,000-year-old text that completely upends how we think about, success, power, duty, and even compassion.
Which is why we really have to start with that bizarre marketing campaign you just mentioned in the intro.
Oh, yeah, the barefoot one.
Right. The narrative kicks off with Jesus preparing to visit a series of towns. But instead of just showing up, he sends an advanced team.
Yep.
Either 70 or 72 disciples, depending on which ancient manuscript tradition you're looking at.
Which, feels like a highly specific number to record. I'm assuming there's a reason for that, right? Like, it's not just a random head count.
No, not at all. In the ancient Jewish mindset, that number immediately triggers a connection to Genesis chapter 10.
Okay, what's in Genesis 10?
Well, it listed the 70 or 72 in the Greek translation original nations of the known world. So by sending out that exact number of messengers, there is this subtle but unmistakable theological flag being planted.
Oh, wow. So it's symbolic.
Exactly. This isn't just a local Galilean tour anymore. The ultimate scope of this mission is global. It's for the whole world.
Okay, so he sends them out 2 by 2, representing the whole world. But the actual packing list and the instructions he gives them are completely unhinged for a successful campaign.
They really are.
He calls them lambs among wolves. He tells them to carry no money bag, no knapsack, and no sandals, just barefoot. And then there is that instruction to greet no one on the road. I always read that and thought, what, are they supposed to be secretive? Like ancient secret agents or something?
Yeah, it does sound like a stealth mission to our modern ears. But if you understand the culture of the ancient Near East, it was actually about extreme urgency.
Really? How so?
Well, an ancient greeting wasn't just a quick wave or a hello as you walk past someone on the sidewalk. It was a deeply ingrained, highly elaborate ritual of hospitality.
Like a whole production.
Exactly. You would stop, exchange formal blessings, inquire about extended families, sit down, perhaps share a meal or tea. It could literally take hours.
Oh, wow. So telling them to skip the greetings is basically saying, you do not have time for the standard social pleasantries. We are on a deadline.
Right. The mission requires absolute, undivided focus. But even more fascinating is the lambs among wolves imagery combined with a complete lack of supplies.
The vulnerability of it.
Yes. The historical context here is crucial. Think about how other empires or tribes or even religious movements spread their influence in the ancient world.
Usually at the end of a sword.
Exactly. It was almost always through military force, coercion, or, immense wealth.
Right. You show up with an army or you show up with gold to buy people off.
But Jesus intentionally strips his messengers of all power and all self-sufficiency. They are walking barefoot into strange towns. This proves that the movement relies 100% on voluntary acceptance.
Which is wild.
It is. Because if the message takes root, it's not because people were threatened into it or bought off. It's because the message itself resonated with them.
But, okay, what if it doesn't resonate? What if a town just completely rejects this barefoot, vulnerable, advanced team? They don't fight back, obviously, but they do have a specific protocol, right? They are told to wipe the dust of that town from their feet.
Yeah, which was a very severe, very physical symbol of judgment.
It seems pretty harsh.
With a way of saying, we are leaving you to your own choices, and we won't even take the dirt of your streets with us.
And Jesus doesn't soften the blow here either. He mentions specific towns that reject the message: Chorazin, Bethsaida, Capernaum, and food. He says their fate will be worse than Sodom, Tyre, and Sidon.
Which is huge.
Right. Now, just from a historical standpoint, comparing a respectable first-century Jewish town to Sodom feels like the ultimate explosive insult.
Oh, it's a devastating comparison. I
Yes.
mean, Sodom, Tyre, and Sidon were notoriously wicked, pagan cities that faced absolute catastrophic destruction in ancient history.
Everybody knew those stories.
Exactly. To look at a town full of observant, synagogue-attending people in Capernaum and say, Sodom will have it easier than you,
Right.
is just shocking.
So why say it?
Well, the logic is based on access. Capernaum had a front row seat. They witnessed the miracles, they heard the teachings directly, and they still walked away.
Ah, I see.
So their arrogance was intellectual and spiritual. Because they had more access, their fall would be that much greater.
Okay, so this barefoot advance team goes out, completely vulnerable, dealing with rejection by dusting off their feet. But then they return, and the mood, completely flips. They come back totally hyped.
They do. They are thrilled.
Right, because while they were physically vulnerable on those dirt roads, they tapped into this massive hidden spiritual reality.
Yeah, they return joyful and report that even demons are submitting to them in Jesus' name. They've tasted real power.
And Jesus validates it with this incredibly cinematic statement. I love this line. He says, "I saw Satan fall like lightning from heaven."
Which is actually a direct echo of the prophecy in Ezekiel 28.
Oh, really?
Yeah, describing the initial judgment and fall of the adversary after rebelling against God. Jesus is giving them a cosmic perspective here.
Pulling the camera back, basically.
Precisely. He's essentially saying, you thought you were just casting out an evil spirit in a local village, but every time you did, it was a structural blow to the enemy's entire kingdom.
Wow. And he also tells them he has given them authority to trample on snakes and scorpions, which, let me guess, we aren't talking about literal desert reptiles here, right?
Not at all. In the ancient world, and specifically in this prophetic context, snakes and scorpions are potent metaphors,
For the spiritual stuff.
right? For the demonic opposition and spiritual adversaries they were facing. It's highly symbolic of the spiritual warfare happening behind the scenes of their preaching.
Okay, so the disciples are riding this incredible high. They're basically walking around feeling like spiritual superheroes.
Absolutely.
And this is where Jesus executes a brilliant psychological pivot. He immediately throws cold water on their excitement over this raw power.
He really does.
He tells them, "Do not rejoice that the spirits submit to you, but rejoice that your names are written in heaven."
It's a profound ego check. Because, think about human nature. We are intoxicated by power, by visible success, by defeating our enemies.
Oh, totally. We love a victory lap.
Exactly. And even in a religious context, we love the spectacular. But Jesus is insisting here that the greatest miracle isn't, exorcising a demon or having supernatural authority.
It's simply belonging.
Exactly. Having your name written in heaven is an ancient concept referring to a citizenship registry.
Like being on the official books.
Right. The true source of joy isn't what you can do for God or the power you wield. It's the simple, graceful fact that God has claimed you as a citizen.
Which makes perfect sense of what he does next. He prays, and he thanks the Father for hiding these massive truths from the wise and learned and revealing them to little children.
Yeah.
He is praising the exact opposite of power and status. He is praising childlike dependency.
Because it takes immense humility to accept that your greatest asset isn't your resume or your spiritual power or your theological knowledge, but simply God's unearned grace. The wise and learned of the ancient world just couldn't stomach that.
So Jesus basically says the ultimate spiritual VIPs are the humble, dependent children. And you just know the actual VIPs in the room couldn't let that slide.
Oh no, they never do.
Which brings us to the religious lawyer who steps up to test him. This guy is like the definition of wise and learned.
And this specific encounter launches what is undoubtedly one of the most famous stories in human history, the Good Samaritan.
Oh, yeah. Everybody knows this one.
But to truly understand it, we have to look really closely at the lawyer's motive.
Right, because they agree on the basic theological premise at first. Love God and love your neighbor. That's just standard law. But the text notes the lawyer wants to, quote, justify himself.
Yeah, that's the key phrase.
So he asks, who is my neighbor? I look at that and see a guy looking for a loophole. Like he wants Jesus to draw a boundary line so he knows exactly who he is not obligated to care about.
That's exactly it. He wants a minimum requirement. Give me the checklist so I can complete it and feel righteous.
Right.
So Jesus answers with a story set on the road from Jerusalem to Jericho.
And we all know the basic setup. A guy is traveling, gets jumped by bandits, beaten, and left for dead. But let's talk about that specific road, because the geography totally changes how you experience the story.
It really does. The Jerusalem-Jericho road wasn't a casual stroll. It was notorious.
Like, dangerous.
Oh, highly dangerous. You were talking about a 27-kilometer trek through the desert, featuring a steep, 915-meter drop in elevation.
Wow, that is steep.
It was narrow, winding, filled with rocky caves, and baked by the sun. In the 1st century, it was the perfect kill zone for bandits.
So the man is lying there bleeding out. Along comes a priest, and then later a Levite, top-tier temple officials. Both of them see the man, cross the road, and pass by.
Right.
Now, normally we just label these guys as cold-hearted hypocrites, but wait, weren't they actually trapped by their own strict religious laws?
Yes.
Like, if that man was dead, touching him would make them ceremonially unclean, meaning they literally couldn't do their jobs.
That is the crucial hidden mechanism in the story that we often miss today. According to the law, if a priest touched a corpse, he became ritually impure for a full week.
Which means what, practically speaking? Like, what's the actual consequence?
It means he loses his shift at the temple in Jerusalem, he loses his income, he faces immense public stigma, and he has to go through a rigorous, very expensive purification process.
Oh, man. So it's a huge deal.
Absolutely. The bandits didn't just leave a dying man on the road. They left a career-ruining trap for any religious official who stopped.
That is wild to think about.
They might have even feared it was an ambush.
Yeah.
The bandits were still hiding in the rocks, waiting for someone to stop and help.
So their obsession with preserving their religious purity and perhaps their own physical safety actually caused them to fail the most basic test of human empathy.
Precisely. Jesus is arguing that active compassion for a suffering human being always supersedes ceremonial ritual.
Right.
By rigidly adhering to the letter of the law, they completely violated the spirit of the law, which is love.
So the religious insiders fail the test. And then the plot twist arrives. The Samaritan. Now, if you grew up hearing this story, Samaritan just means, a nice person who helps out, like a Good Samaritan hospital.
Right. It's a compliment today.
But in the 1st century, that word was radioactive, wasn't it?
It was incredibly offensive to a Jewish audience. To understand why, you have to go back to the Assyrian conquest centuries earlier.
Okay, history lesson.
When the northern kingdom of Israel fell, the Assyrians deported many Jews and brought in foreigners who intermarried with the remaining population.
So they were viewed as traitors, essentially.
Yes. The Jews viewed them as historical sellouts with a compromised lineage. Worse, the Samaritans set up their own rival temple on Mount Gerizim and rejected much of the Jewish scriptures.
Oh, so it wasn't just a political thing.
No, the hatred wasn't just geographical. It was deeply racial, cultural, and religious. They were considered heretics. A Jewish audience listening to Jesus would have fully expected the Samaritan to be the villain who finishes the dying man off.
But instead, this hated outcast stops. And I mean, look at what he actually does. He doesn't just call for an ambulance and wait. He gets his hands incredibly dirty.
He really does.
He uses his own oil and wine to disinfect and bandage the wounds. He loads the bleeding man onto his own animal, which means the Samaritan is now walking on foot through that exact same bandit-infested territory.
He takes on the danger himself.
And the financial cost. He gets him to an inn, cares for him, and the next morning he hands the innkeeper 2 denarii.
And to put that in perspective, in the ancient economy, 1 denarius was the standard wage for a full 12-hour day of manual labor.
Wow.
So he is handing over 2 full days' wages for a complete stranger.
Plus, he opens a tab. He literally tells the innkeeper, "Take care of him, and I will reimburse you for any extra costs when I return."
It is a literal blank check.
It is.
The level of extreme sacrificial love is just staggering. And then Jesus turns back to the lawyer and springs the trap. He asks, which of these 3 was a neighbor to the man?
And the lawyer's response tells you everything you need to know about the depth of his prejudice.
He can't even say the word, can he?
No, he physically cannot bring himself to say the Samaritan. He just mutters, "The one who had mercy on him."
Wow.
Jesus forces this religious insider, the guy who wanted a neat, comfortable boundary line, for his compassion to recognize his worst enemy as the ultimate moral exemplar. The boundaries are completely obliterated.
Your neighbor is anyone in need, regardless of race, religion, or social standing.
It completely levels the playing field. But this creates a fascinating tension when you look at the entire structure of Luke chapter 10,
Hmm.
because we just spent all this time celebrating incredibly active, physical, messy compassion on a dangerous road.
Right.
And then Luke transitions us away from the road straight into a quiet living room in Bethany.
It's a brilliant juxtaposition, honestly. If the Good Samaritan is about the necessity of outward active love, the story of Martha and Mary is about the absolute necessity of inward, quiet contemplation.
So Jesus is a guest in this house in Bethany, which is a village just over the Mount of Olives from Jerusalem. Martha is running around doing exactly what a good host in the ancient world was supposed to do.
The hospitality ritual we talked about earlier.
Exactly. She is preparing the food, making sure everyone is comfortable, totally distracted by the logistics of service. Meanwhile, her sister Mary is sitting on the floor at the Lord's feet, just listening.
Hmm.
Finally, Martha snaps. She tells Jesus to tell Mary to get up and help her. And I'm going to be honest, I've always felt a lot of sympathy for Martha here.
I think most people do. I mean, we all know a Martha. She is the one keeping the event from falling apart while everyone else relaxes.
Exactly. The ultimate stressed out event planner, making sure the dinner doesn't burn. I always assumed Martha was just annoyed and like a little jealous that she was stuck doing the dishes while her sister got to hang out with the VIP guests.
Sure.
It feels harsh that Jesus rebukes Martha and says Mary chose the better part, like somebody has to cook the food.
It does feel harsh until you understand the explosive gender dynamics of a first-century home. The architecture and social customs of that era strictly divided men and women.
Okay, how so?
Well, the kitchen, the food preparation, serving the guests, that was the exclusive, rigid domain of a woman. It was her socially mandated role.
Right, that's just how society worked back then.
But sitting at a rabbi's feet, that wasn't just casually hanging out. Sitting at the feet was the formal, recognized posture of a theological student.
Oh, wait.
It was the stance of a committed disciple in training. And that role was strictly, undeniably reserved for men.
Wait. So Mary wasn't just avoiding chores. She was actively trespassing into the men's domain to demand a theological education.
Precisely. She was breaking a massive cultural rule.
Mm.
Martha is upset because Mary is abandoning the expectations of her gender, which leaves Martha to shoulder the social shame and the actual physical work all alone.
Wow, okay, that changes everything.
She wants Jesus to put Mary back in her place. But instead, Jesus defends Mary's rebellion.
He validates her right to be a scholar.
Yes. Jesus refuses to enforce the cultural boundary. He elevates the eternal value of discipleship above the temporary societal expectations of gender roles.
That's incredible.
He is saying that a woman's primary identity isn't domestic service, it's being a student of the divine.
And the NWA Study Bible connects this beautifully to Jesus' own habits, right? Like, they include a whole table mapping out his prayer life.
They do, and it's very revealing. Throughout the Gospel of Luke, you constantly see Jesus retreating from the crowds, stepping away from the endless demands of ministry and healing to pray in solitary places.
Just stepping away from the noise.
Yes, he does it before major decisions, after massive miracles. Jesus himself modeled the exact thing Mary is doing, stepping away from the anxiety of doing to prioritize the stillness of being in God's presence. Martha's work was good, but Mary's posture was necessary.
What an incredible journey through a single chapter. I mean, we started with an advanced team being sent out barefoot and vulnerable, proving that true movements rely on grace, not force.
Yeah.
We saw the cosmic defeat of darkness, only to be reminded that the greatest miracle is simply having our names registered in heaven.
We watched a despised Samaritan become the gold standard for human empathy, shattering the religious elite's need for comfortable boundaries.
And finally, we ended up in a Bethany living room, watching a woman quietly shatter the gender norms of her day to take her rightful place as the theologian.
It is a relentless sequence of subverted expectations. And it leaves us with a fascinating and slightly uncomfortable modern question.
Oh, I'm ready for it. Lay it on us.
Well, we spent this time looking at the Good Samaritan's hyperactive compassion paired directly with Mary's quiet contemplation. Think about our modern world, especially with social media.
Right.
We live in an era of performative activism, where if you aren't constantly posting, doing, and publicly showing your good works on the Jericho Road, you are judged.
Very true.
But this text asks us a difficult question. Are we using this constant visible busyness, even good, righteous, religious busyness, to avoid the much harder, invisible work of sitting quietly and being transformed?
Oof.
Can we find the courage to log off the Jericho Road for a moment and just sit in the living room in Bethany?
Oh, man. That is a profound challenge. Finding the balance between the dirty hands of the Samaritan and the quiet rebellion of Mary. It's not one or the other. It's the wisdom to know which one is required right now. Well, thank you so much for breaking all of this down with us. And to you listening, keep digging into your sources, keep questioning those comfortable boundaries, and keep looking for the truth hiding beneath the surface. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. God blesses all the listeners. Goodbye.